Anytime, huh? Okay. Hi, I'm Philip Yancey, and it's been a delight to be with you at Bethlehem Lutheran Church. Not in person, of course, but virtually as you've been studying this topic of prayer. I hope you've learned something, and as the series wraps up, I want to spend a few minutes with you talking about what next? Where do you go from here? Prayer is universal. We almost all do it at some point or another, and yet a lot of people feel that it's complicated. They don't feel very good about their own experience with prayer. I remember reading someone who said, you can summarize what Jesus said about prayer in three words: keep it short, keep it honest, and keep it up. Keep it short. You don't have to be flowery. You don't have to have a master's degree in theology. You just talk to God. And there's no reason not to be honest because God already knows what's going on. So keep it short, keep it honest, and keep it up. Even when it seems like nothing is happening, Jesus told story after story to have perseverance, not to give up, to keep knocking, to keep asking. I like to make things simple. And when I think about prayer, it boils down to two different things. One is to invite God into my life. We are surrounded by a culture that tells us what's important is how beautiful you are, what you look like, how much money you have, how successful you are. Those are not God's eyes. We're getting that message constantly. And in prayer, I have to ask God, help me to see the world as you see it. That homeless person, that woman at the checkout stand who doesn't speak very good English. Help me to see those people not by my culture's eyes, but through your eyes. So invite God into my life, and then maybe even more important, invite myself into God's life. Maybe the most important thing I learned about prayer is that it's not so much about trying to get God to do what I want done. It's really being available to what God wants done. We know what God is like. God is a God of mercy and compassion and justice and forgiveness and love. The world does not know that. For whatever reason, God has chosen us, people like you and me, to make known those qualities in the world. I would have to say, forgive me for saying this, but if I were God, I would not have done it that way. I wouldn't have trusted ordinary human beings. I would have wanted to do it myself. And sometimes I ask myself, why did God take that risk? Why did he turn the mission over to people like us? The closest analogy I can think of is to be a parent, and say a father is in the stands in a soccer field watching his son, and that son, he can bend it like Beckham, man. He can play so much better than the father. How does the father respond? He doesn't say, that kid, he's trying to show me up. I'll break his legs. He says, that's my boy. His daughter gets accepted into medical school, something he would never have dreamed of at her age. How does he respond? I'm going to unplug her computer, trying to show up the old man? No, that's my girl. He gets pleasure from what she and he, the children, do. And I think there's something like that dynamic going on with God. He gets pleasure. God gets pleasure from what we do in our own inconsistent and sometimes feckless ways. I ask myself sometimes at the end of the day, did I do anything today to give God pleasure? What did I do to give God pleasure? There's a scene in the early part of the book of Acts, kind of a humorous scene. The disciples are there. Jesus is with them, the resurrected Jesus. And then to their shock and astonishment, he floats into the air like a balloon. And they stand there with their mouths open until these two angels appear. And the angels say to them, why are you standing there looking into the sky? Didn't he tell you to get going into Judea, Samaria, the uttermost parts of the earth? God turned the mission over to us. And the only way the world is going to know what God is like is if we show the world what God is like. Prayer is our connection. It's our way to get to know that God and then to find out what God wants of us, to be available to God as we make God known to the rest of the world. So the series is over as you've been studying my book on prayer, but I hope your experience with prayer is not over. I hope it's just the beginning. Why are you standing there looking to the clouds? Get going. Get moving. Bethlehem Lutheran Church, if you tune in and make yourself available, can be not just the thumb to the state of Michigan, but the hand of God in a very needy world. Thanks so much for the time that we've spent together.
Great, and that's